Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming in and coming back and listening to the Leon LeGray podcast, episode 148 of the Leon LeGray podcast. Good to be back. And I hope everyone is excited to hear me back again. And I really do enjoy doing these podcasts. But now, with several weeks, as of now, I've been very busy doing gigs, side hustles, all that I'm doing, which in my next episode 149 I will be discussing more detail on that pretty soon. So today's episode will be about the iPhone and Apple. And also this is going to be something, it's going to be very, very interesting because last month was Steve Jobs' birthday, and even though I didn't gone through talking about Steve Jobs and for that amount of time and that amount of detail, I would imagine how it would have been if Jobs was still around and how he would have seen Apple today and things that sort of matter, how he would have seen the company at this point in this peak. And to me, it is very, very interesting because over 8 years ago, if I can recall correctly, I've had the iPhone 5S, the iPhone 5S, which is the fifth model. I would call it the fifth model on Apple's on Apple's flagship, which was great at its time. I actually used the Apple 5S at the time. It was super fast, sleek, why not too, and whatever you want to call it right there too. And to me, I loved everything about the iPhone 5S. And currently, in today's podcast, we're going to be going down and talking about iPhone SE 2020 edition, which is the second generation phone, which right now I have in my hand. And we're going to go ahead and discuss some details about the iPhone, what I like about the iPhone, which is why I think this is a really good phone from Apple. If you are an Apple user and if you are excited to hear this review and having me to go over details of what I like about this is an episode for you. And for all you guys out there that is not into Apple, it may not interest you a lot, but however, I am going to go through it too because it has been a long time, and I will go ahead and explain why I went and switched back to Apple over a brand new Android handset. So this is going to be very, very interesting. So before we get into today's episode, let me go over a few of my sponsors of today's episode. And today's sponsor of today is Zenni Optical. And for those that have not heard me say, Zenni Optical, it is a company that does construction on customized anti-blue light glasses. And so whether you're gaming, you're working on the computer, or using those glasses for casual use on the computer, studies have actually shown that blue lights does harmful effects on your eyes for the long term, and blue lights having to go and look through a screen long term is no good for you too. And I definitely recommend it too, even if you're not using prescriptions. They offer glasses for non-prescriptions, which right now I'm using non-prescription anti-blue light glasses, which works well too if you wanted to use it to protect yourself. And especially for me, as someone that as young as I am, that I've gamed since I was like God knows how long, probably like 8 or 9 years old, that right there does take a whole hit on your eyes, and it does damage your sight further on in the future too. Not just because of age, but because of the use on the screens for a very long time too. And that's what happens when you stay in the computer for a very long time too. And if you are a worker, and for me as a worker that have spent pretty much a whole year as a contractor working with Comcast, I had a hard time going through the screens back and forth, and it was just a mess of its own. And to me, there are times I've had to squint, and it was painful to work seeing the screen for so long. And to me, Zennies is where it helps. And I only wished I've looked into something like this a long time ago too. And if you go into my affiliate link down below and check it out, you'll do yourself a favor and save your eyes for the long term. Next, and the for and not least is Brave browser. I use Brave browser a lot, and if you want to protect yourself and your privacy, check out Brave browser down below in the description, in the show notes down below. And then last and not least, the former hosting provider I've used was Podbeam. I love Podbeam, and Podbeam is a great hosting provider, which is still good. It does a very good job. Now, however, if you are running a media site, and if you're using audio only, it provides subscription based for audio only. And if you're a business and if you are looking to do audio and video, Podbeam does that for you as well. And I love the choices Podbeam does as well, and I think it's great. Podbeam does have good prices for business owners as well. So check out Podbeam and you won't regret it. And then lastly, not least, is Blueberry on the list. And check out Blueberry. Blueberry offers a cheaper, in fact, a much cheaper rate than Podbeam. So Blueberry does a great job having to host your podcast. And I worked with the guys with Blueberry for I would say about 1 year with Blueberry. Blueberry not just does podcasting, but you can sign up for statistics, which I've done for about $5 a month, which it's a very reasonable price for statistics, and they do a good job as well. Check out Blueberry, and Blueberry does a great job. And if you have a website, I definitely recommend anyone nowadays that's doing a podcast, please work on your website and put in put in WordPress in your website and put in the Blueberry plugin. I recommend Blueberry a lot too. So go ahead, check it out. What are you waiting for? Try out Blueberry too. You will not regret it one bit too. And also, I have more affiliate links down in the description below. Check it out and go ahead. And if you do sign up, you'll be helping me out as a content creator all the way through. So with that said, let's get on with the episode for the iPhone SE 2020 edition. All right, now getting into the episode of today. So the iPhone SE 2020 edition review. Now, as you guys know, that this is going to be mostly audio only, and through my experience, since I've been using the iPhone for now 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks right now, and I love the iPhone, and there are plenty of reasons why I decide to stick with the iPhone. Because for one, even though the battery doesn't hold up as long as the Android, which I have to say I definitely agree to some extent right there too, that it doesn't. Now, however, I decided to get the iPhone because I think a lot of the apps that run through iOS does a fantastic job, and plus when you're going through from iPhone to Android, one thing a lot of people don't know this, but when you're using an app on, let's say, on a Samsung phone, Samsung manufacturer phone, or an LG phone, or a Motorola phone, most of these developers will have to go through and update each individual manufacturer on different on not carriers, excuse me, but different definitely on different devices, manufacturer devices. So you have to know, as a developer, it's a pain when you're working with tons of different manufacturers and different phones on Android based phones like those. Now, while on iOS, the one thing I would say about the good and the bad about the Apple environment is that, well, it is very convenient. I will give it that. I think it does a wonderful job doing what it does, which it's not entirely bad on its own, having to stick with the Apple based environment. Now, with that said, the Apple-based environment, it is not perfect because for one, you cannot just go and get out of the Apple ecosystem just like that too. Because when you're inside the Apple ecosystem, like the iOS, that's where it's cool. It's don't get me wrong, I like the user interface. I think it's not bad at all, and it is user friendly. That is one thing I would say about it too. It is user friendly. Things have definitely changed significantly well, and it's improved. And I will say my criticism with iPhone and with Android itself is that whenever they've done anything with the iPhone, like this too, my criticism is the hardware. Right from the very beginning, I would say about a few years ago, the huge criticism was that they've done the same crap over and over and over again. While the sizes on the 6 and the 7, the least they've done was that they've decided to improve the size of the phone, make it much slightly larger for with people with bigger upstrut hands. Like for instance, I was talking to a friend a few years ago that said that I would rather go for Android because Android not Android. Well, Samsung and LG did took its approach on making its handset device on a larger bill for larger people, which is good. And I would give those guys that for doing that. While Apple, on the other hand, they were doing the same stuff and going past iPhone 4. While I did use iPhone 4 throughout its early moments of its time, I said, okay, that's still great right there. I think they did a lot right there throughout its early times of the iPhone, and it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong, but however, to me, I always felt that the shape was the same. They weren't doing anything very different, and that's when all of a sudden the iPhone 6 and the 6S came out, and that's where Apple did do a little bit something different here and there as well. And I always criticize Apple for they were actually one of the first ones to do something different and revolutionary about the point. But then over the time, I always said, man, when will Apple put a SD card just like Android phones or these manufacturers were able to do is not just put internal memory, but how about an SD card like for external memory? So that way you people can transfer back and forth on applications, on photos, on videos, and why not, right? Which I thought that was a very smart approach for Apple to do something a little bit different, right? And what would they ever do? Well, let's see right here. Well, I'll put it this way. For one, when I've had the 5S, the one approach that they did do something different was the fact that they put a thing called the files, or the files folder, where you pretty much put everything all at one on the iCloud drive. Which for me right here, the iCloud, here's the thing about it too. I'm actually glad that they have a free 5 gigabytes for free from Apple. It comes with it for everybody else. But if you want more storage, then you have to pay for it too. And I don't necessarily say I hate it, but again, Apple did have enough time to produce a phone that you can just have a SD slot, which I never understood me why they couldn't manufacture a phone for external memory. And that's what bothered me a bit, because I think at the end of the day, I look at it this way. The iCloud is more money into their pockets, right? If you want more storage, you have to pay for more. And a friend of mine that I speak with here and there too. Right now, we're both iPhone users. He's been an iPhone user for many years right now too. In fact, he never pays for iPhone's full price, which is quite smart. He actually buys it from his nephew, right? And so it's actually quite cool. He doesn't just pay it right off the bat. The first thing it comes out off the shelves. And to me, that's very, very smart right there if you could just avoid paying full price. Now, however, I got this from my carrier from T-Mobile. I think paying it monthly is just better than having to pay full price if you can try to avoid that too. And also, the reason behind why I purchased the iPhone SE 2020 edition was because of its economics. Because I would rather get a 400 phone iPhone than a $1,000 iPhone plus tax along with it too for the iPhone 12, which fucking ridiculous as it is. And forgive my language right there, but I think it is absolutely horrendous for a price of a phone. And to me, that with a price of a phone, you can actually pay for a used car, which I'm thinking, what is up with that price point? It's just it doesn't seem reasonable for the average person to spend money on the phone and just do away with it too. Now, if you're able to avoid $1,000 price tag, probably spend less money on it too, then I think that's great. I think the SC, hopefully in the future, long road ahead, they can consider keeping the flagship SE phone and keeping it for people that can't just jump on to a high price, high performing phone, right? And I know what I've understood from Apple's WWDC announcements that their iPhones are going to have built-in 5G. Which, what does that mean? That means that this is their brand new, their whole thing about having people connected to the 5Gs, the TO or IoT, which stands for the Internet of Things. But for me, however, I don't buy the whole 5G thing as of now, because for me the 5G is way too early in its conception. And anyone that's buying onto 5G, I think, knows that it is super early right there too. We don't know how much 5G is going to be around on city buildings. For me, all I can say is that it's going to start. The way it's going to start in urban areas first before it can hit on rural areas. Now, development on 5G, that's still a question right there too. And the other question is that if 5G is going to be safe for the long road ahead right there too. So either way, this is not an episode about 5G, and I won't get too deep into it because the episode is going to be mostly about iPhones. So for me, if you're someone that is starting to get into the Apple ecosystem, or just curious like me to get into the Apple ecosystem, this right here, the SE 2020 edition is for you. In which, by the way, this is the second edition, second generation of this iPhone. And I like it so far. I think it's works pretty well too. I think it is one of the best handset phone, and is pretty much similar to the 5S. The way and the shape of its size of its phone, which I like it right there, because for me, I'm not a fan of the whole bulky iPhone thing, and I still am not. And for me, and I think sure there's some people out there, like for instance, I know it's going to be nice for tons of women to carry that onto their purses. Probably something that has a bigger or slightly bigger screen. Who knows? That's something that it will definitely attract people for those are looking to getting into the Apple ecosystem. So that's one right there too. And let's get right into the phone. What are the first things I like about this phone? All right, so starting with number one on the list that I have written down is the faster processor that is for the second generation phone, which is a much snappier processor than the first gen SE iPhone. I'm really impressed. I love the fast, intuitive pace on this too, which is great, and it performs really, really well. And the storage that comes with it too is 64 gigabytes, and that what impresses me. Most of it is is not just the processor, but at least the size of the phone and how fast it's running too. So that's amazing right there too. And then for the price tag of this phone, so for what I didn't previously mention was the price tag. So the price tag is pretty decent for about $400. That I got that I got over on T-Mobile too. Now, of course, you can still pay it monthly, so you don't have to pay $400 right off the spot if you don't have the money right there and then, which I don't recommend for anyone doing it right off the spot if you can't. So that's one right there too. And just like I've said before, small. It's a small phone and easy for anyone to carry around. For anyone that has, you can just put it in your back pocket and it works great. And that's pretty cool. And also for anyone with like small structured hands or medium sized hands like mine's, it works out great. And it's not a very very fancy phone, which is good because it's for anyone that just wants to carry out a phone, just for any general purpose phone. It's not like the iPhone 12 with the 3 lens camera and shooting nice hot looking pictures, and or why not too. It's not like for your Instagrammers. And this is not a phone for Instagrammers or for the high quality shots for the everyday photographer. And this is pretty much for the everyday man or woman out there too that is just looking for an easy, simple phone to carry around with them all the time too. And so that's the one thing I like about the iPhone SE. This is great. And also, if you make this brand new purchase, whatever carrier you have, mine's is T-Mobile. If you have AT&T or Verizon, Sprint, whatever, I will tell you something right now too, is that when I've gone through the built-in apps such as Apple TV is included with it's pretty much 1 year free. It's 1 year free of subscription. And normally you'll end up paying like what, $5 a month with Apple TV, or what if I remember this correctly, like if you decide to go with Apple TV, it's like a 7-day trial or 14-day trial. I don't remember, but however, the way it is pretty much Apple's new original content. For what I remembered right there, it's pretty much like Netflix or Hulu, and it's cool. The shows I've watched on Apple's original series was the Snoopy show, which is actually pretty cute, and the other show I watched was called All for Mankind, which is still a good original content right there too. And I know that they've posted out tons of original shows and movies on the Apple TV Plus. So to say, for the most part, I think it is absolutely great, and I think they've done a pretty fantastic job on the brand new series. So again, I haven't sat around and watched tons of their original content, which I don't have time to go through and sit around with there too. But either way, if you're interested, go ahead and check out their new original content if you are a first-time buyer with Apple or a returning iPhone user. That right there is probably cool right there. So go ahead and check it out if you want. So in the review, let me just put it this way too. And I haven't gone through 14.4 of iOS. So let's get into talking about 14.4 of the iOS software. Now going down deep into iOS 14.4. Now reading and understanding about iPhone 14.4, the iOS on it too. What's the big deal with this iOS right here too? So getting down into it too, what's the biggest improvements? Now I want to let all of you know that if you're on iOS right now too, so be aware that it takes about 400 megabytes for the download. And so if for anyone that is still stuck on 14.3, just be aware that you still have to make some space on your iPhone. So just be aware of that too. So just giving you a note and warning. And so after reading and going through gottabemobile.com, which here it shows what different things that they've done to improve the iOS, and which it states right here, we've been using the iOS 14.4 update for several days now, and here's what we've noticed about its performance in key areas. So reading through the first line right here, which says iPhone or iOS 14.4 connectivity, which which it says right here, battery life is currently stable, which has improved the battery life on 14.4. Wi-Fi connectivity is fast and reliable. Bluetooth is working normally. GPS and cellular data are both stable. So one of the big improvements that was that's on 14.4, then it didn't show up on 14.3. So that's the biggest improvement right there that you'll see. So next one is app performance. Third-party apps including Netflix, Dark Sky, Twitter, Stack, Asana, Gmail, Chrome, and Spotify are working fine at the moment. So a big improvements on the app performance. First-party apps like Safari, Podcasts, and Calendar are also stable. Big deal right there too. And if you're a podcast listener like I am, that's a big deal, which good to go for Apple on that. 14.4 currently feels as fast as iOS 14.3. If your iPhone is struggling on iOS 14.3 or an older version of iOS, you might want to install 14.4 on your iPhone right now. If you need help making a decision, please check out our reasons to and not to install the iOS 14.4 update. It will help you make a decision, which they have another article about 14.4. What's the big decision for you if you have to update to 14.4. So that's something right there you guys want to check out on this article right there too. So moving forward, problems on 14.4. 14.4 is causing problems on some iPhone users. Some problems are brand new, while others are carried over from older versions of iOS 14. The current list of iOS 14 issues includes installation problems, lag, exchange issues if you're doing mail, problems with first and third party apps, hotspot problems, severe battery drain, touchscreen issues, issues with Touch ID, Face ID, green tint issues on the iPhone 12, random stuttering, charging issues, and various other bugs, performance issues. So let me just go over what I've experienced over the week with 14.4 with the iOS update. Because when I first opened the box and updated the iOS, I will be honest right here. I haven't had any of those issues right there on the SE. Now, if you've had any of these issues on iPhone 12 Pro or iPhone X, then you guys can let me know on the comments down below or anywhere, or probably leave me a review what you've thought about the iPhone, whatever, right? To me, I like to hear everyone and what everyone is going through with their own iPhones and see what you've guys gone through too. So let's get on to the update on what's new, what's exactly new. So let's see here. Apple's updates almost always bring a mix of features, security patches, and under the hood improvements, and that's exactly what you get from iOS 14.4. So what are the new features? What do we want to know about this? So getting onto it right here, which says smaller QR codes can be recognized by camera. So that's cool. Which I like right there, which I do a lot of QR codes and scans on coupons, which is cool. If you're trying to save money on shopping, if you're a big shopper, that's cool actually. Options to classify Bluetooth type, device type in settings for correction identifications for headphones or audio notifications. Notifications for when the camera on your phone is unstable to be verified as a new genuine Apple camera in iPhone 12, iPhone 12 mini, iPhone 12 Pro, and iPhone 12 Pro Max. The Max. Wow, that's pretty cool. So that's one of the new features right there. So of course, it doesn't show anything about iPhone SE, but let's see what's the big thing with 14 right here. What does this fix? What do we need to know? What does it fix? Which says right here, fixes an issue where image artifacts could appear in HDR photos taken with iPhone 12 Pro. Fixes an issue where the fitness widget may not display updated activity data. Keyboard fixes an issue where keyboard may not come up in the correct language in messages. Fixes an issue where audio stores from the news app in CarPlay may not resume after being paused for spoken directions or Siri. Fixes an issue where enabling switch control in accessibility may prevent phone calls from being answered from the lock screen. Ooh, but it's a good thing because I haven't had these issues as of yet. So that's something I haven't experienced on the SE, but who knows if that will ever come until the next update on 14.5 or whatever iOS updates that's going to be coming up next. Who knows? So let's get into the meats of it too. Let's get on to what's since I already said most of my pros right here. I pretty much stated most of my pros right here, and I will say that like the pros right here is that if you are used to the Apple ecosystem, the Apple SE is for you, and if you want a simple phone just like me, the one I'm using, then this is for you right there too. Now I haven't gotten into the gritty nitty on the cons as of yet too. So let's get right on down to cons because I'm excited to see what I am missing that I haven't stated on the pros. And here we go. Here we go on the cons. So this is where this comes down with an issue right there. Moving from Android to iOS. Oh boy, here we go on this too. So this is going to be very interesting. Now, I know that iOS or Apple came up with a software up on the Google Play Store called Move to iOS. It's pretty much an Android app that you use for one time to move all your stuff from Android to iOS. Basically, that's what it is. And here's my experience with the app. It was terrible. I think Apple should start addressing this 100% right there too. And this is where that bugs me a bit is they don't they first of all the reviews on it shows already that the move to iOS is terrible. And this is something that Apple got to have to address this, and they got to fix this as soon as possible. And I try to do this because I want to make things a lot easier for me than having to go through to download all the apps and go through all that headache. But however, what did I do instead? I had to go through all that headache, download the apps manually, and get this done because I was just a little bit fed up having to mess with the installation, the transferring of all the apps because I've had messages from Signal and I had the messages from it too. But again, I was pretty much full of storage on the Android phone, which pretty much was like my international Android phone that I purchased overseas over a year ago. And I have to say that this was a struggle, and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go through this again. This was pretty pathetic. I had to go through this mess. So I will tell you right now is that just don't use the Move to iOS app. Now, however, if it works for you, great on you. Great on you. I salute you right there too. And I actually tried to go through the YouTube tutorials to help me out right there too. I'll say that I tried it. It did not work still. It was a pain. And so that said, it was not worth tinkering around that issue or trying to solve it over and over again. And there were some things that did partially work on it, but then again, when I tried to transfer the apps from Android to iOS, all the transfer, the Wi-Fi transfer just kept timing out again and again and again. So that didn't work. So the other con right here too, this may not be a big deal for all the new iPhone users, and I think that's not a huge deal since a lot of you guys are using Bluetooth headsets to connect. For me, I go old school. I like to keep my listening chip onto the wire, and to me, I still think that the Apple, the way it is, even though they're trying to trim the way, what you call it, the headset jack, the 3.5 millimeter jack, I still think, even today, I still think they made a foolish mistake. Like, you don't ever see Samsung or LG or Motorola cutting off the headset jack. No, absolutely not. I think it's an absolute worst idea coming from Apple, and to me it is a worst idea ever. And so if you want to still use the headphone jacks and not having to pay $30 or $200 on a Bluetooth headset to listen to your stuff, then to me, having to spend more money on Bluetooth wireless headphones, I honestly don't think it's worth spending more money on it too. Like, I'm sure there are actually cheap alternatives to the Bluetooth headsets. I'm just not a Bluetooth guy. I am sticking with wired phones, which I think it's much more secure. If, let's say, if somebody tries to break in or hack through your listening chip, or if you're having a conversation, let's just say, then that becomes a problem with Bluetooth. And Bluetooth, even though they've have done tons of patches over the years and making Bluetooth much more secure, and I believe like Bluetooth is like it's on its 4.0 peak or whatever Bluetooth idea it is, or whatever number it is going at it right now too. I still I still think wired headset is the way to go, because what I find the flaw thing about the wireless is that, yeah, there are going to be some hiccups with audio, wireless audio, if you're listening to anything on your car. Let's say if you have a modern car or whatever, right? It it's good if you have just that, just for the luxury of it, and if you want to do that. But however, I'm a podcast user. I love using wired headbuds, which to me, I'm still practically used to it already. So I don't want to just let that go, for one. And if you want to listen to it, you have to purchase a headset adapter, which you'll need if you want to continue using your old headsets, which I think are still great at this point too. And I think the idea of Apple, what they're trying to do with the phones, was trying to make it much more thinner and slimmer, and to me, and their previous WWDC announcements that they've done, they cut this out because they were doing something courageous on cutting off the headset jack, which I thought that was the most stupid, idiotic thing that anyone from Apple that would say that, which is, I thought that was ridiculous. And to me, they could have made something cool and kept it. Even though they would have made a slimmer iPhone and still continue to add the headset jack, to me, it's just no reason, because I think the adapter, I think the way I see it is that you're gonna somewhat likely to lose the adapter, and then you can having to go ahead and purchase a brand new one, and see what I mean here. Which, it's all right on its own, but it's, to me, that was not the best logic on Apple's side, right? And to me, I'm glad that they have adapters where you can just plug both headphone, your 3.5 millimeter headset, and charge simultaneously via the adapter, which is great. I like it right there, but still, it's not perfect. I think they've got to recent. I think whatever happened to Apple, this is probably my thing with the Apple era, continues this far too. I think that they are still a mega tech of the world. Especially, I know that a lot of people will say that Tim Cook has done a great job on doing what they did with Apple, but come on, I disagree 100%. to me, the headphone jack was still a priority. And for anyone trying to cut it off, I think it's just still, in my opinion, a big mistake. Because also, now like I just stated, like what happens if you lose the adapter and then you have to purchase um $5 more for another adapter. And if anything, if you are going with new phones, just remember, I would never pay premium for any adapter on for Apple. I'm just saying right there off the spot that you're better off paying elsewhere, like on less money through third party vendors, like on Amazon. If you spend money on Amazon or on eBay, eBay is the best way to do it, and I recommend going and spending like $3 to $5 on a adapter, or if you could find something cheap right there too. That's just me. It is the way for me. It is the way to go. Having to go through something affordable at this point, and I do like the other adapters that they sell on eBay, where you can connect an Ethernet jack plugged into it too, which I thought was cool. And if you want to go for a wired connection for some whatever reason it may be, or whatever your reason may be, they have tons of adapters for iPhone to check up on eBay, which I've checked on it a couple nights ago too. And as of now, there's one coming in the mail, coming from Texas or Hong Kong, I believe. But either way, that's going to be coming up pretty soon. And if you want to listen to your podcast privately, which that was one of the things I have to say that I missed about Apple, especially with the old Apple phones. When I've had the 5S a long time ago, I remember holding my phone, and I remember that the charger was there and the headset jack was there, and that was one of the things that was pretty cool, and I was able to walk around just fine until they decided, whatever their reasoning was, we got to eliminate the headset jack. That was an intrusion. That was a big intrusion for our phones. So that was an awful mistake. Even still today, I wouldn't. That's one things I there's part of me is like, I hate what Apple's done, but at the same time, there are still tons of Apple people that are still waving around their iPhones just like they don't care, right? Either way, that's where it all comes down to too. But if you are something, or a person of yourself that is looking to have a headset jack included, then go ahead and stick with the manufacturer that does use it. But however, go with something that, let's say, Samsung Galaxy 20 or Galaxy 20 or what was that, the phone? Oh yeah, Galaxy S21, right? They still have the headset jack as of today. Now, the last part in the last segment do want to go down to is, I do want to go over on the first party apps, especially with Apple. Now, the first party apps, especially the ones I'm going to be using, and the ones that's commonly the most common things I'm using on Apple is pretty much Apple Health for running, and using running apps, which or walking apps, I suppose. If you do a lot of walking outdoors, if you want something that will count your steps, those are great first party apps, which Apple already placed in already. If you're pretty much a health conscious guy that does a lot of walking, running, jogging, whatever it may be, those are good apps right there too. And you can also connect third party apps next to you, along with Apple Health, which it connects to it simultaneously, which is awesome. If you are a runner, that is super cool. Now, just to note right there too, if you're doing any running or walking, if you're just carrying your iPhone with you, that is cool, which I love. I love doing that sometimes in the mornings, or mostly in the evenings when I'm much more active, which I like about that right there too. That aspect of that I can go ahead and stand for too, which is absolutely great. And that's one thing right there too. But like I've said on the previous part of the podcast, is that that's why I always want to have the headphone jacks, because thing is though, this iPhone didn't come with a Bluetooth headset, right, or whatever, and I'm a guy that's always sticking with the wired, and that's okay. I know a lot of people have their preference right there too, and that's one thing right there, is that it just becomes a clutter inconvenience. And if you're walking by yourself and you just want something, a podcast to listen to or music to listen to on your way out, that's one thing I don't like about that too. And that's something I like to do while I'm running or walking, jogging or biking. That's the best thing I like about that so far too. Now, I will say is that the battery does hold significantly well. And just a footnote right there too. Like, let's say if you're doing something intense like intense gaming, or exercise app or gig apps, especially like right now, while the gig economy is still around, I think this is where it is very, very popular as of right now too. So that's one thing to consider as well. Now, if you're using apps that is taking or eating up your battery, let's just say third party apps running in the background, I will suggest to anyone that is using the SE is try not to stick to my application, because which by the way will drain your batteries pretty fast. So just be careful of that, and take note that what you're doing in the background, or you can cut off a background refresh. You can go through the settings on iPhone, which you guys can do, and which will save you tons tons of time and having applications running in the background constantly, which is good that you guys don't have to do that all the time. And so the phone, well, like I said, the phone works really well. Siri has improved over time, which I actually use Siri many, many times when I've had the 5S. And this right here, the Siri has been a big, big improvement right here, and I love it a lot too. Now, the other first party app from Apple that I actually still don't like, and which is still very unpopular, is the Apple Maps. Apple Maps, it has its flaws right there too. It definitely does have its flaws, where it's cool that Apple did have improved here and there, and it's not like Waze, it's not like Google Maps. It doesn't have like the advanced routing features where's the nearest shortcuts. It's pretty much, it takes you straight from point A to point B, but doesn't give you exactly uh, alternative routes, or doesn't warn you about alternative routes. So you have to rely on apps such as Waze, Google Maps, Here app, and so on and so forth for whatever third-party applications, and that's out there as of right now. So again, I have tons of applications right here on this 64 gigabyte SE 2020 edition, which works great, and I love the application too. Now, I have to say though, there hasn't been no flaws. I've been using Apple Music a lot, which is wonderful, because I love listening to music onto Apple Music, and I actually subscribe to Apple Music to listen to songs that I can keep up with. And the best part about it, I don't have to pay for each song, which is absolutely fantastic about Apple Music right there. So, because normally the subscription is it's actually a little bit pricey. It's actually comes close to Spotify's premium price of $9.99, which it's not bad if you are using it very, very frequently, and that's cool and all too. Now again, $10 a month. It is quite of a price if you're going to be cashing out each and every month. So just be aware of it too. However, I am using Apple Music on a trial, which is a 3-month trial coming from February all the way to May 28th. So I have to make sure that I cancel that out before it ends. So otherwise, that will charge my account right off the bat. So that's something I have to remember, and I already have a Apple reminder set up for that too, to make sure that I have to get off of Apple Music before it cancels right there. So yeah, So there are tons of great things, but however, I'm glad to see that Apple has, what can I put it this way, has branched out. And there was kind of the reason back then where why I decided to go back to Android from the Apple 5S, moving back to an Android phone was because of the stupid banning of cryptocurrency applications that they did early on. And I remember that I wanted to get into the crypto scene, and I was actually one of the first people that heard about cryptocurrencies and got into the scene early enough and discovered upon it. And that's where app the likes of Apple decided, hey, cryptocurrency is a threat. We got to take off of our store, and I don't like where this is going. So, but now they've pretty much pretty much unbanned this point, and so now crypto at this point, where I see is that at least Apple has recognized cryptocurrency, and just like Google in many ways, actually, we're actually pretty open about cryptocurrency in the first place without having to go through a ban, which in that sense, I like that. They didn't ban the cryptocurrency right from the very beginning, which is still very awesome, and that's why there was a lot of Apple users that decided to migrate from Android from the very beginning because what Apple was doing. And again, I have to say though, as someone that just bought this phone because of economic reasons, not because I wanted to get into the Apple fad right away. But I think at this point, this phone does serve its purpose for everyday uses, um, for gig rides, all that stuff right there too. And I think it does a fantastic job. What it does for its sole purpose right there too. And if I have to if I have to rate this, for me, my rating on this phone will be I'd say about 7 out of 10. In It's still a great phone. It's not a perfect 10 out of 10 because, like I've said what I've stated. Beyond its positives, there are still some negatives out of this point as well too. And to me, the whole wireless trend will still continue to be a huge trend in the future to come, especially having Apple going all wireless and taking rid of. I think the next thing I'm hearing with Apple is that they're going to take rid of jacks. So that means the way you charge your phone, the way you listen to your music, you have to depend everything on it wirelessly, which I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't know, but this is something. There's something that almost everybody's gonna have to start getting used to if you want to still continue on the smartphone scene, and why not? And again, it's all depends on you as someone that wants to get into the Apple ecosystem, and that all depends on you because, again, Apple is still it has many elements of a walled garden, and even though I said early that it has slowly branched out a bit, but it's still an enclosed walled garden, and it doesn't mean that everything is open for everybody. And so that's where it comes down with Apple. And then lastly, I would say that the privacy feature on Apple, it isn't really secure of what they say. And to me, that's where I find that to be hypocritical with Apple. And even though what Apple claims is we are 100% committed to privacy. See, that is a very controversial thing if you think about it right there too, because I don't ever see Apple being so privacy aware, which is really nuts. When if you think about what Apple did is that they surrendered to someone's phone over to the FBI, which is quite interesting right there too. But again, I'm sure there are holes that people from the jailbreak community that had opened up and at this point already cracked 14.4 already. And so that gives people more customization features and more things that they can do. But the jailbreak community is still well and alive, and a lot of people are still going to work on tinkering things that they can do to jailbreak on their iPhone. And it's just like the people from the Android root community. They're still doing things that they can do to customize their phone, which is very awesome and very exciting to see what they can do. But yeah, with that said too, I'd like to hear all you guys' comments. What do you think about what I've said too? Do you think that these are logical reasons why I've said about the iPhone SE 2020? And if you're an iPhone user yourself, using the iPhone 12, the 12 Pro, or the 12 Pro Max, the almighty phone of its own, let me know what you think about the whole Apple ecosystem. What do you think about the phone you're using? I'd love everyone to share about your opinions on this too, which I think it'd be great to hear this from everybody. With all that said, we're going to go ahead and put this episode on a close. And enough rambling for one day. And because I've gone through Apple, which for me, I'm going to definitely stick with this Apple phone for a couple of years right there too, because there is tons of things for me to use with Apple. There are for me, something about Apple and has its benefits, and at the same time does have its moments that I don't like, which again, it is up to everybody what you guys think about the phone, and it could be for you. And again, I never give recommendations to anybody, so you have to look at it and look at its pros and its cons on its own. But with that said, thanks for listening to the Leon LeGray podcast, episode 148 of the show. It'd be awesome if you guys put a review on Apple iTunes down below, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever you listen to me on. It'd be awesome. Let everybody know what do you think about the show of today. But with that said, thanks for coming in, sticking around, and listening here for today. You guys have a great day. Goodbye.